Hi, and welcome to CX Today. I'm Susie Harrison, Head of Content. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by William Rubio, who is Chief Revenue Officer at CallTower. And today, we're going to be exploring UCaaS and CCaaS convergence. So thank you, William, for joining me. And let's dive into this discussion, shall we?
Oh, thank you, Susie. Thank you very much for having me on today.
So today, we're going to be looking a little bit at UCaaS and CCaaS convergence. So let's dive in. Can you tell me how the convergence of UCaaS and CCaaS is reshaping the enterprise communications strategy, particularly when it comes to customer and employee experience?
Yeah, I think the actual industry overall is starting to evolve. That there was always a big, real focus on the customer side of the house, and I think ever since the pandemic, which incredible to say, it's probably already 4 years ago, um, it's really changed, and now it's really about what can we do to solve the business outcomes of our customers, but what are the tools that we're able to go ahead and give to our employees at the same time to make it actually a win-win solution for both the employee and also for the customer. Customer retention and experience has become a big part of the success of the customer experience and really trying to drive those business outcomes. So you're starting to see a lot of demand from the employees to actually get better tools, get better solutions in front of them so that they can be more successful with their customers when they're actually, whether it be on the phone or doing an instant message or web chat, et cetera, that they're actually working with them. So I think that there's been a greater focus and a greater demand on those tools. In addition to those tools, it's also been a demand from the leadership, whether it be the contact center supervisor, manager, et cetera, the VP, the managing director, that they're also looking for better analytics as far as understanding the behaviors of their customers, the behaviors of their employees, where they shine, where they're having some challenges overall. So really kind of driving to understand better what they have currently from a design standpoint today, how could they improve it overall, where they're seeing successes, where they're seeing some limitations. So you're starting to see a lot of demand both on the employee side and the customer side, and then obviously from the leadership with making sure that they understand what's going on with their customers and what's going on with their employees as well.
Yeah. And as enterprises increasingly prioritize agility and digital transformation, what role does UCaaS, CCaaS convergence play in enabling scalable, integrated communications ecosystems?
Yeah, I think when you start looking at what UCAS and CCAS play, everybody says, well, the UCAS is somewhat of a commodity. The CCAS is all about sophistication. Yeah, I necessarily don't agree with that. I think that UCAS and CCAS have to work well together, and it is very critical that there is that, for the most part, that kind of seamless integration between them because you're having a lot of the CCAS employees, agents, or let's call them, all of a sudden pulling in individuals that are not in the contact center environment. They're not in that platform, but you're pulling them into different calls, whether it be subject matter experts or expertise of a certain subject that they're working with, that you need to go ahead and need to drag them in. So I think when you start to look at that integration overall, it's really critical to make sure that that's your first line of support when you're actually talking to a customer or a potential sale or a potential customer that might be leaving you for whatever reason. And you want that flexibility for your employees to actually be able to work from home, work from a remote environment, work from the office overall, and making sure that that seamless integration and transformations in there. I think also when you're starting to see how the different things like analytics work in the solution overall, as far as when a call comes in, as a basic example, when that call is being transferred into two or three different people, to actually be able to go ahead and trace that call from beginning to end, look at that resolution overall, and at the same time provide a good experience for both the employee, like we mentioned earlier, and also the customer, because you want to make sure that that customer's journey within within that transformation is actually going to be above par. You got your NPS scores that are a lot of individuals are looking at. You have different types of SLAs that you have depending on the type of contact center that you have. So as an enterprise, you want to make sure that that flexibility, and then you're also giving those right tools within your contact center solution, because today it's not just about voice. There's different segments of different segments of the population that sometimes they like to be on a web chat, others like to be on an email, others like to go ahead and be on text messaging, or now even some of the other social medias like a WhatsApp and so forth that they like to go ahead and actually interact with. So you got to make sure that you have the right tools set in place and that they seamlessly work together when you're looking at UCaaS and CCaaS.
And we're seeing so many vendors now offering or starting to offer integrated platforms. What, from your point of view, do you think enterprise IT leaders should consider when evaluating a converged UCaaS CCaaS platform?
Yeah, it's definitely changed, right? I mean, we've seen definitely the convergence when you look at Microsoft, with their Microsoft Office 365 dynamic contact center solution. You've seen Zoom come out very aggressively with a lot of the product and the feature set that they have on the Zoom contact center. Cisco went already. I think they're in version 3 right now as far as their software on Cisco WebEx contact center. You still have call it the main 3 or the main 4 players with folks like Five9 and TalkDesk and Nice and Genesis that are there. So it's become, and then you still have some of the call it the UCaaS first providers that are actually trying to make that transformation into the space. So it's become a very, very crowded space here over the last several years because of the value, right? I think that any organization today that you're talking to in one form or another, whether it's a contact center light, whether it's an IVA, what we consider an interactive virtual agent, kind of like a highly sophisticated auto attendant. Somebody has some type of a contact center solution that they're putting in their front of their organization, on the front of their design, to go ahead and really work with their customers. And some people call it deflecting of calls. Others are calling it just routing it to the right individual, to the right team, to make sure that it gets there. So I think when you're starting to look at what some of these integrated platforms, a lot of folks are looking at it as, well, it's already battle tested, right? So do I need to go ahead and worry about having 2 different platforms that are integrating together and make sure that it's working? And where does that risk fall? Does it fall as me, as the end user, or does it fall on the providers? And you're hoping that there's going to be no finger pointing back and forth, or do I just go with one solution that are one platform, or a couple of platforms, but really a couple of platforms from the same vendor is probably the better way of saying it, and just not have to worry about that. But necessarily doesn't mean that it's better. In a lot of cases, there's other challenges that do come up right now. But I think when you're looking at some of the best of breed solutions, like some of the ones I mentioned earlier that really integrate well with UCaaS and CCaaS together, I think when you're evaluating those type of things, you have to make sure that you're dealing with platforms that have already been battle tested together overall, so that your contact center design and that your employees can go ahead and shine and succeed overall.
Yeah, sure. And what are some of the common misconceptions enterprises have about merging UC and contact center environments? And how can they avoid those pitfalls?
Yeah, I think the first time when you're actually looking at something like that, they say, well, if the platform has any interruption of service, my communication platforms are completely down, my UCaaS, my CCaaS, and that's a big misconception. I always kind of use the example of a car. It's kind of like you're driving a car and your window doesn't work. Doesn't necessarily mean you can't drive the car. It just means that your window doesn't work overall. And I know that that's kind of a little limited there in the example, but same type of thing. There's a lot of different design type of workarounds that you can put in place to make sure that, whether it's that maybe the communication on the voice goes down, again, you could reroute that to either different offices, or you could have auto failures in place with multiple different connections, and then backup platforms that do work, which you should have anyway, regardless if you're using one integrated platform or you're using multiple platforms overall. You should have those type of conversations with your service providers and making sure that you are set up for those type of interruptions, which are going to happen. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, every platform is going to have an issue at some point in time throughout the year, and you have to just make sure that you're prepared for it. So I think it's about making sure that they understand where those risks are within the system. If it's my toll-free number, if it's on my email campaigns that I'm doing, as some examples, you want to make sure that you have those those conversations. And if you're not having those conversations with your service providers, then you're probably not talking to the right service providers. Those are uncomfortable conversations to actually have with some end users, but they are necessary to have them in any type of deployment that you're doing. Nobody wants to talk about when things go bad, but if I'm an end user, if I'm looking at my contact center and even my UCaaS overall, I want to make sure that I am having those conversations with my vendors because we know at some point it's inevitable and it's going to go ahead and it's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. And so looking ahead, how do you see AI and automation amplifying the value of a converged UCaaS, CCaaS stack in enterprise settings?
I think over the last couple of years, when you look at AI and you're looking at automation overall, these are just things that before were kind of some wants that a lot of folks had. It was desirable to have them, but they were expensive. They were a little bit clunky to go ahead and onboard and so forth. And I think that now you're not seeing that. I think that AI and some automation amplifying overall is really just becoming basic in any type of contact center or any type of solution when you're looking at both UCaaS and CCaaS and stacking them together. They just have to be, right? I mean, these are just things that nowadays are just part of the solution overall. It kind of goes back to the same thing when you look at CRM integration back probably 15 years ago as an example. That CRM integration into a contact center, even into a UCaaS, was really something that was kind of out of the normal scope, and now it's just become a commodity. Everybody integrates with Salesforce. Everybody integrates with Microsoft Dynamics, whether it's UCaaS or CCaaS. And I think you're starting to see the same thing now. How deep you go into the AI and automation stack, that's obviously a little bit different conversation because you just want to see if are you kind of dipping your toe into AI and automation or you're really going full into it overall. And I think it depends on the organization and how sophisticated they are overall. But if somebody has a simple IVA and they're actually go ahead and routing calls one way or another based on that IVA, then guess what? You're automating your solution, whether you think about it or not, and your AI, and then you're driving some good analytics to make sure that you can see where you're getting some bottlenecks within your organization, why you're, in some cases, you may be losing some customers or not growing some of your customers. And those are the type of different analytics that you want to drive when you're starting to invest into AI and automation overall. So I think it's playing a critical part. If you're not doing it today, I will tell you that your competitors in any industry are starting to look at this and actually starting to do it overall. So it's definitely something that you can't avoid it anymore. It's just making sure that you understand, how to use it overall. We use kind of a joke internally that we have customers that call in and they say, "Well, I want to buy AI." And we say, "Great. What do you want to buy?" And they're like, "Well, we don't know. We just want it." And it's like, okay, it's not something you can buy off the shelf, right? It's something that you have to really look at and you have to work with, but kind of baby steps. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Or as I kind of use as an example, is you don't have to build a 10-bedroom house for one individual. Start with baby steps. Start with getting into it, understanding, get some easy wins within the organization as far as how you can automate things and how you can leverage AI, and then start looking at the bigger projects. So I think those easy wins are definitely the better way to go. But it is part of the organization. And if you're not doing it today, you're going to see that your organization is going to be in trouble over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think I have so many conversations about, starting small and having a direct use case so you can prove the ROI of that automation piece. And yeah, I think, for all industries, it's obviously something to embrace.
Yep, sure is.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, William. It's been really great to chat this through with you. And of course, to our viewers, thank you for watching. Of course, we'll be keeping abreast of this and more on UC and CX today. And please do like and subscribe for more videos like these. So thank you, William, for your time today. And we'll see you all soon.